Yo, 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 party people in the house. Welcome, welcome. Happy Friday. You're listening to the Entrepreneurial Web. I'm your host, Jeremiah Fox. Before we kick it off today, and I introduce my guest, message of the week, more of a question this week. I've asked it before. Maybe Tommy and I can unpack it here today before the end of the show. They say a picture is worth 1,000 words. If that's the case, what's a video worth? Anyways, we're zooming at you live today from my restaurant Della in the Windsor Terrace section of Brooklyn, New York. More on that later. Welcoming my good friend, neighbor, and the guy behind the lens on a lot of the stuff that I do, Tom Justino. If you follow me on social media, all the nicer looking videos in photography, they're compliments of Tom. And we even we did some stuff together when I first put the show together, dealing with our neighborhood. I was interviewed on another show here on talkradio.nyc with Jeff Goodman. This was a little over 2 years ago, and Tom did some amazing stuff with the audio, just going around the neighborhood and celebrating this lovely neighborhood at Windsor Terrace, which we live in and have enjoyed even more so during the pandemic.
Yeah.
Right? It's been like really amazing during this time. Anyway, so Tom is he's been in New York City for a long time. FIT grad.
FIT and School of Visual Arts.
Yeah. And he's excels in still photography and video and creation as well. We'll talk a little bit more about that as the show goes on. And yeah, like I said, a lot of he's opened my eyes to a lot of things in terms of quality video and photography and its application on social media, particularly where I do most of my outreach, whether it's for the restaurant, for the wine store, same there. If you go to either one of those profiles on Instagram or Facebook, like the really fine looking stuff is compliments of Tom here. The rest of it's just me on an iPhone, which is not a bad thing, but like he's giving me really great advice on the proper kind of gear to get, especially if you're working on a budget. What was the quote? So he was also my wingman for my very first Facebook Live that we did in the front of Della almost 2 years ago. You said something that night. I can't remember what it was.
I was trying to remember it the other day.
It was like, don't get anything more than you need. So there's like all the bells.
That was the gist of it.
Yeah, it was just like, yeah, sure.
What do you need to shoot?
Yeah.
Exactly, just what you need, and no more than that.
Only what you need, and learn to work with that first, especially with the technology. I mean, so can we talk about the new iPhone? Have you spent any time like?
Dude,
digging in?
I just, I bit the bullet and bought the 12 last year.
Right.
And I was super excited with it. And, it was a no-brainer for me. You could shoot raw files with it and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, it's been kind of heartbreaking that all of a sudden, bam, 13 Pro. But I don't know what is the perks they say. I think it's mostly the video stuff.
Yeah, definitely.
Which I just rarely prefer to use an iPhone for video.
Right.
I love to have it in my pocket for stills, but with video, I always get kind of annoyed.
Yeah. So me being the, ignorant
not at all
person that I am, I got a Semi when they announced that they were that they had like portrait mode on the video function, because that's the one thing I feel like I'm lacking when I'm just, because I'm always rolling around places, and I've figured out how to kind of manipulate it with photography, and I'm pleased with the results there. But in terms of video, I'm like, so I saw somebody posted on Twitter the other day, I think it was just yesterday, and it was shot right here. They were at like maybe Prospect Park or Fort Greene Park, and then they were at the Smith and Ninth station on the R and the F and the G, and then they were down like by the Marine Park Bridge, and it was all just shot on the new iPhone, and it was gorgeous. I mean, it was
on the 13.
Yeah, on the 13 with like the portrait mode and everything, and clearly there was like some very good post production, but it was pretty simple.
It always needs the post production, but some of the stuff,
Yeah, but you can,
if it's not good, you can't rescue it.
Right, you can't add that depth of range in post-prod. So I was like, oh man, now, I'm still operating on the 11 Max Pro, or Pro Max, however you say it, which is like, I got it 2 years ago. Maybe it's time to upgrade.
I think, every 2 models maybe makes sense.
That's where I'm at.
Exactly.
Kind of
for me, like I just got the 12, so I have moral conflict of upgrading so soon and then just like renting something for a few $100s that I'm going to end up losing in the, trading it in to get the new one.
You have a proper camera already.
Exactly.
You kind of don't, you don't need it.
And
like you said, nothing more than you need. I personally feel like I could score a lot of value from this purchase.
So much.
For me, for like my purposes and everything, especially because everything I'm doing is just funneling right into social and into YouTube.
It's perfect for that. It's perfect for that. And it's going to be kind of mind blowing for that. Like
I'm excited. I just had to get that off my chest.
Yeah.
It's like,
I don't know.
Something on my mind. And I was like, I got to ask you about it because we hadn't talked about it.
I may be tempted when it does like kind of, I saw something today, like a trade-in thing and all that kind of stuff. And I was getting like, should I do it? Shouldn't I do it? And I'm like, but I just, I got an attachment to the device I have now. I work well with it if I need it. And then I'm like, oh, I'm going to learn the other one. And, not that there's much to learn.
No. But that's where I'm at too. I mean, I know this phone, I managed to keep it for 2 years I haven't cracked the screen. Nothing's happened.
I've miraculously not cracked the past 2 iPhones I've had.
Nice. The last one I had, I destroyed it.
Yeah.
I do have to do another gear shout out because you turned me on to the Moment stuff.
The Moment stuff is killer,
for iPhone, and I got one of their cases, and I still drop my phone just as much as I did before. But the Moment cases that support their lenses, this thing has been great. It's been fantastic, and I'm going on like almost 2 years of use now. Another gear question I have, since we're on the topic. So Moment has all these cool lenses. I know you don't love it, but the fisheye lens is super fun.
I bought a fisheye for my camera. Like if it's used right, then definitely.
Can't do it all the time.
But,
is it the amorphic lens?
The anamorphic?
Anamorphic, yeah. So do you have any thoughts on like how that will interact with the new functionality with portrait mode? Is it like, because with some of the, with those lenses, when you play with your depth of range in terms of the 3 different the 3 different lenses that even the 11 or 12 is working with, it only will work in like the center lens. Do you think that'll be something that they'll be able to work homogeneously?
I don't know. I mean, first of all, every time I think I know something, like I know enough about photography and lenses and everything, but like every time I get into the video thing, my friend, and the guy that shoots all my shorts for me, shoots video more than he'd ever shoot still. So he'll always correct me. He's like, well, it's not a true anamorphic.
Yeah.
So it's like, I don't know. I haven't read everything, and they might have made concessions on it not being a true anamorphic. So that does
work. It'll work.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I don't care if it's true or not. For me, again, I'm like, I just want to look cool.
Only the nerds will care.
Yeah, exactly. I just want to look cool, man.
You always do.
But and we talked about this the last time we did this, and it was just this idea of like being a touch better or just looking a little bit better than like the general population, where everybody else is just yanking out their phone and snap, record. Like little touches that will make you stand out visually and audibly. Even coming from my music background and audio background, some things you said to me that I didn't understood. It really helped the way people perceive video when you approach audio a certain way. Where like my intuition was to cut out all background noise.
Yeah.
Being a music guy and doing a lot of recording sessions and studio sessions, you always wanted to like box everything in, but like with video, it's nice. You want to maybe dial down the gain on the background noise, but to have some ambient noise, and some music, and all kinds of other
with
little treats.
With sound and video, sound makes all the difference in the world. And I think I told you this, like after you were like, oh, that made sense. And I listened to you and I'm like, there was one day I just, it was before bed, and of course I want to watch a relaxing movie before bed. So I put on Taxi Driver to like kind of dissect that. And I think I told you that, man, there was one scene I was listening to, watching, and then I just heard these faint footsteps that were timed perfectly with his walk. And you probably wouldn't even pick it out if it was in a theater or if you were sitting down watching it in front of TV. But because I had the headphones in, because I was super focused, I could hear what they did. And it's always so good to just put that thing in there. If somebody can hear it subconsciously or whatever, it makes all the difference in the world. And it's a rabbit hole to go down. You can do it with loads of stuff. I mean, if you're inside or outside, if you're inside and, everybody wants clean audio and stuff like that, but it's like, you might end up muddying it up because the video is happening in New York City, and just put faint traffic sound in the back that somebody can't pick up right away, but then they feel like the place that the interview's taking place.
But it's always good to at least have that file, like the real one. Like the
total clean?
No, the opposite. Like always save that background noise.
Oh yeah.
Like you can separate it out.
Oh, you can put it in your mix and just even kind of lower it. And
I mean, I didn't know this either at the time, but especially for Apple users, which I'm an Apple slut, I'll admit it.
Same here. 100%.
QuickTime Pro, all you have to do is export it as a sound file, and it will completely separate the entire sound file. You don't have to have any extra software or anything like that. Just boom, you got your audio file. Then you can mute it, even in something like Premiere Rush. Super simple, just like dead that. But then if you want, just like that little, if there's like that siren, and you're like, fuck, I can't go get another siren. Boom, you got it right there. You just cut it out, drop it back in. Boom.
I've done it with videos that we've shot here.
Oh, I know.
Because I'll keep the restaurant noise, and it's not clean audio, so I don't want it to be the prominent focus of things. So I'll build out other stuff, but then I'll just put it real low in the mix.
And for like every time I curse and yell at my wife and kids,
you got to leave that stuff in. It brings a natural feel to things.
Makes it very real.
Yep.
All right, we're going to take our first break, everybody. Hang tight. We'll be back in just a minute. All right, everybody, welcome back. His mic's not dead.
Is my mic still okay?
Yeah, I'm coming through yours. I can hear it.
Okay.
I'm like,
cool.
tap. Yeah, it's not working. Anyway.
So I just pull it off, stretch my shirt over it.
I just got to talk very loud. No, it's okay. We're here for you, Tommy, not for me. So welcome back. You're listening to the Entrepreneurial Web. I'm your host, Jeremiah Fox. Welcoming to the show. This is the first time actually on the Entrepreneurial Web, but we've done a bunch of other fun stuff before.
I've always been here in spirit.
Yes. He's been. I always imagine Tom behind the lens.
Yeah.
Like all the things that he says to me, and then I'm like, oh shit.
I come from behind the camera. You're like, wait, you have a beard?
People think you're me sometimes too. They see these, especially when we were.
I wish I was.
So much liability there. So Tom is he's a New York City camera guy. He's and in production and creation as well. He's been around for how long have you been in the city for? 25 years?
Yeah, probably 25.
Yeah. So he's been at it for a while. He's seen a lot of changes in the industry, going from more, lack of a better word, analog to digital. Yeah. And weathered a bunch of storms. I'm curious to get your take on like how the industry has changed over the last 2 years, especially, there was a period where nobody could shoot. And like a guy like you worked for some major companies and then broke out on your own and you were doing well before everything shut down. And then what's kind of been the scene, because I know people are back to work, but it's kind of modified. And you know, you have to do things a little differently these days.
You do, and you have to kind of invent ways to keep yourself productive. And I mean, in terms of like current state of what people are doing and how things have changed, I feel like a lot of people kind of turn to making content just to get themselves through it, whether it be audio content or video content with friends that they were safely vaccinated with, or you know, doing stuff remote and trying to do creative things with Zoom, and you know, just listen. I mean, just discourse is entertaining enough. It's like if you can, you know, John Krasinski doing that thing that he did at the beginning of the pandemic. You know, it was enough to keep people busy. So I feel like it's been out there. It's been kind of, we've been able to forgive quality a little bit because, you know, of certain things that you can or can't do.
When is Zoom going to step up and give us like good
fucking
video files?
Yeah, but also like the audio breakups that come with that and sound all like you're a robot or something. But I mean, you know how I feel about being on camera or whatever, but like if I got to do a FaceTime, even that just, you know, it breaks up. So it's like, you know.
And at the top of the scale, I mean, there was a period when not Rogan himself, but like one of his staff had gotten COVID, maybe like a year ago or something like that, and he had a show scheduled with Mcconaughey, and they had to do it remotely, and I watched it just because I wanted to know like how does this shit play out for somebody that's like got all the budget and everything, and they still had the hiccups, and
you can't avoid it.
McConaughey's just on his laptop, so it was like that view, and he left like his email open so the notifications were going on the whole time. And at a certain point, Rogan was like, "What's that noise?" He's like, "Oh, it's my email." And he's like, "Can you turn it off?" And he's like, "No,
you know, I'm Matthew McConaughey. People want to get in touch with me."
And like there were hiccups and all that stuff, and then I was like, okay. It's all right.
No, it's as long as you can give the viewer, listener, or whatever, what they are there for, which is a story, which is valuable discourse that they're invested in, then that's all that matters. And they will forgive the hiccups and the breakups and stuff like that. And, you know, back to your question about how things have changed, maybe people do invest in that a little bit more, you know, understanding what's behind the content that you're creating and having a plan going into things rather than just going out and shooting stills and shooting video that really isn't focused. So I think people are going to come out of it a little bit more focused and understanding that people will stay with them as long as the story's clear and long the message clear, and just to stay on message, you know?
Now I've noticed, you know, the city, especially just in the last 2 weeks, seems to be operating, you know, as close to like all Pistons as it has in 18 months. You know, I'm in Midtown, you know, 4 or 5 days a week now in the middle of the day. And like, you know, the west side, like especially around Madison Square Garden, that was like, it felt for a while like it was like the land time forgot. You know, just like,
because you were going in there, right, during the whole thing. I think I skipped going into Manhattan for a year.
So solid. I mean, and we would, you know, sometimes we come back through like the East or West Village, and like that was back to like, I mean, you know, there were like all these outdoor, you know, like street side, you know, cafes, which is a little odd, but otherwise, like there were people running around and everything. But like Midtown West was like just a bunch of homeless people and crazy people, and like the occasional like brave soul who was like,
there feels like
I just got to get to Hansel Gracie Academy, Paul.
There feels like there's less of that lately.
Well,
definitely for sure.
Yeah, I was in Midtown a couple times this week already, and they're all still there. It's just harder to see them now because of the amount of people that are now running around.
There's a lot of people in Midtown now?
Yeah. So like, especially that area in the 30s between like 6th and 9th. Yeah. There's exponentially more people than there were, say, like, you know, even 6 weeks ago. I know a lot of people have gone back to offices, kids have gone back to school for now.
Yeah.
See that, let's hope that sticks.
I was wondering about the offices thing, like how many people were back in those offices. 'Cause a lot of people are just like,
Yeah.
we don't need our office anymore in Midtown, and all these spaces are just available.
And it's true, and I think that dynamic will forever. Part of that dynamic will forever be there. That like some things will be forever changed. Somebody was talking to me about it the other day in terms of like entertainment and dining in or going to shows, and I was like,
this is not changing.
It's never going to go completely back to, or if it does, it's going to take a long time to get back to like what life was like in February 2020. But like that was my point, is that it's kind of, there's definitely been a clear pivot in terms of just the amount of people, the volume of people that are in Midtown midday right now. It's like there's a lot. There's a lot of people, a lot more. And so I'm wondering how that has affected your industry and the amount of work available.
The work has just been strange overall. I think the work is going to be there with probably across the board, because people are coming out and starting businesses, like almost like on a reboot. Mm-hmm. So people kind of need their brands photographed and all that kind of stuff. And the video is out there, but it's not sure where I was going.
Well, is for you, is that the area of focus? Is that because you've been involved in so many things? I mean, you've done like really big budget production. Like, is that what you're looking for right now? Is like really just like kind of like we always talk about storytelling and getting. That's
what I was going to get to. It's. I think that my focus right now in terms of working and going forward is really to get a better grip on that space in between art and commerce, because I am, photography wise, I shoot fine art for the most part. I shoot kind of street photography for the most part. And then even when it comes to the content that I've been writing in terms of stories and things like that I've been producing, I've found ways that I can approach it from different angles, that you can be liberated from, the straight and narrow. Mm-hmm. So I think what I'm looking for mostly now, and I'm hoping people are open to it, because as we were talking about before, people can focus more on their message, on their story, that people will want to tell stories together. If you want me to come in and shoot your brand, I want to tell the story of what's going on with your brand. Like, what is your team behind it? How's that working? And definitely, obviously, videos, you can indulge in that a lot more, but I think there's a tremendous opportunity for that in photography. And it's fun, because the way things are marketing, you're the best of the best with getting stuff out on social media. If you are constantly engaged in somebody's Instagram feed, and then one picture after the other kind of reveals either the story of that person or that restaurant, and it's focused, it's a great thing to follow. I'm going to see what they're up to. So really right now is trying to get out there, create the fine art that is super satisfying to me, and then find a way to push that storytelling art into brands that want to work with photography and video.
And for you, do you have an opinion on this? Like, do you think it's best that those stories are told only on social media and or a website, or is there another outlet where you think like businesses should put out that content?
Well, you own a restaurant, so it's almost like people are coming to see you, they see your social media and all that kind of stuff, and then they sit down and they get a continuation of that story at your bar. So it's, but you've kind of found ways to engage people in multiple ways, whether it be through this, through holding the pop-ups that you were doing and things like that. You're engaging the community with the stories of you and the stories of your community. So I don't know what could prop that up better than social media, because there's so many, or just the in-person. But if you can offer somebody something to go to and just read more about your mission, I guess it's always good to have that, a really elegant, informative website to go to and just see what somebody's all about.
Which I don't have. That's something I got to work on. But something that's been brought to my attention lately is Google My Business.
I've never seen that.
So it's like, they just call it GMB, but it's essentially like when you Google, and if you have a choice as a business owner to claim your business, and it works very similar to a social media account, and all the content that you're putting on social media you could put there as well, and so people see it without having to go to your Instagram account or your Facebook account or whatever. As soon as someone Googles Della Restaurant, that comes up off to the side, and immediately like videos start playing, and there's like content right there, and it's like, I haven't done it.
I mean, you need a website with
heard is good.
You can embed your Instagram feed right to a page. So it's like to see all those different pictures just without having to, because most people skip reading the stuff underneath anyway. It's just, we know that happens.
It has to be easily accessible.
Right there. So when somebody sees that Instagram feed that's just honestly a little bit bigger, if you're on their computer, one photograph or the other, you have that story that you were trying to tell on social media, but you also have the about page. And you also have MailChimp or whatever to get people to correspond. But I saw something the other day, which I thought was just terrific. And I, got my wheels turning a little bit. But I was listening to a great podcast. And at the end, they just talked about, hey, go to the site and we have a message board. So they obviously have enough listeners and good like that people might engage. And hey, post what you're thinking about the show, post who you think did this or that, and or you can just make me laugh and I'll send you a sticker. And I just thought it was a great thing. And that's a great thing to add onto your site, and it keeps furthering your story. So I think more of the use of message boards that create forums that are within your brand, like people just talking about how
it's a great way to get feedback too.
Yep.
All right, we're gonna take another break, everybody. We'll see you in just a minute.
Cool.
All right. We're back again, hanging with my boy Tom Justino here, otherwise known as Bullfella on social media,
or on your menu.
I was gonna say he's so fucking famous. We named a drink after him. So
if that is my claim to fame,
come to Della.
I'm okay with that.
Come to Della, try his drink, and you basically answered my question at the top of the show, which was, if a picture is worth 1,000 words, what's a video worth? And I've asked this before on the show, and I've talked to other camera people about it, and you kind of inadvertently answered it in a way. You were talking about the storytelling component and how you just said it's much easier to do through video. Like it just reveals so much more of the story than just a picture. And I've said this a lot of times on the show, and like when I was really active on Clubhouse, and I was on some panels in there, and also on Ryan Girardi's B2B hour. I say it in social media all the time that for business owners, or it doesn't even have to be business owners, because there's a lot of people that are doing like nonprofit stuff, or just you might be a hobbyist and something you're really passionate about. And social media is your best tool for getting your point across. The hardest thing to scale when you're talking about growth and really like reaching a lot of people and expanding is intimacy, in my opinion. Like, I can create this restaurant and people can love it and adore it, and I'm here all the time, and it's very intimate, and my wife is here, and Ish is here, and you're here, and it's like, oh wow, this is a really super cool place. But if we open a place like 2 neighborhoods away, and we can't be there, and we don't create that intimacy, we don't train that intimacy and find the right people will have a much different experience there, where the food and everything may be exactly the same, but you go in there and you're like, this is not. And the same is true for like, you know, like I think of media companies, or consultation companies. Like there's the guy that creates it or the team that creates it. And if you get their attention, you know, and you're working with them, like, wow, this is amazing. But as they expand and they fold, you know, middle management underneath them, if that doesn't translate, then something starts to fade away. And what I realized when you said that about video is that video scales the intimacy of a situation exponentially more than a photograph can do, or like
it can. I don't know.
It does. It's not inherent. But the potential for you, especially you got the right music and you hear the person's voice. It's a little different than just seeing them and it's like still in blank. I mean, you have imagination. It's like reading a book versus watching a movie. Like you know, people. My wife cries reading books all the time. I've never cried reading a book. I don't understand that. But like, I'll tear up a little bit at a movie. You know?
It's easier to invest, I think, for a viewer to invest in video, or film or whatever. It's, I just, it takes a little bit more of a special brand of intuitive person to get lost inside of a photograph.
I was thinking that, like the same way
I don't.
It
doesn't not exist. I mean, some of my great, you know, my favorite photographers. You know, there's photographers like Roy De Carava, and you know, really that covered New York back in times when I had an attachment to it, whether it's like the jazz scene or whatever. And some of those photographs I can get lost in pretty well. I can hear you can hear everything. You can. The lights are perfect. So I do think that it's possible to get lost inside of an image. But with video, I mean, I watch specific shows and things just because I'm like, I want to live in this for a half an hour. You know what I mean? It's, if somebody's watching just a really well cut vision of a half an hour at Della, they're there. You know, they're more there. So you have the ability to not just make somebody invest in a restaurant that they love, but you have the possibility to put them in there.
We just need to step up that AI game to where you get the smells too, the scratches.
Oh my God, I'm sure it will come.
Oh God, Ish was killing us last night. He was, I don't know what he was doing, but everybody that walked in, even Corey was like, oh, what is that?
You didn't find out? You didn't crack that code, man?
We were too busy, and then I didn't eat for hours after that. But yeah, so we could sneak that in there, boy.
Well, you put out the short rib video last week, which was unkind to everybody that couldn't eat it.
You know, vegans didn't respond to that.
I don't think so. I was going to say maybe they'll respond to the mashed potatoes, but they're made with manchego, so vegans no good for the manchego.
Yeah, you got to put a bunch of cream and stuff in there.
It's so good.
Yes, it is.
That with the short ribs.
So in terms of yourself now and your own business, how are you attracting new clients? From the guy that does this for people, what are like some of your go-to maneuvers for yourself?
I don't know, man. If you figure it out, let me know. I tell you. But I know what I want to do to try to.
I tried, guys.
Yeah.
I tried.
I know what I want to do to try to bring more people in. I think in ways it does it, but right now it's been so new, kind of getting back into things because.
Was there a period where you just had like everything was just done and you were just like not working?
No.
You had stuff going on.
I wrote nonstop at nights after the day was clear and things like that, or I would go out and shoot sometimes. But I was always being productive. But to the extent of actually going out, building my business and my brand, and interacting and creating that stuff, and seeking out people to work with, it's been difficult, obviously, because of
Yeah.
what's gone down. But now my daughter is finally back in school and after school. So it's like I have more full days. So yeah, right now it's just about putting out my fine art and hoping that attracts commerce, as I said, and work with those people that want to, focus on their brands and tell a story about our brand, or tell the story about a relaunch or the birth of a brand coming out of this thing that's been on top of us for so long.
Good point. So like, how did you, so he's been working with Alex Clark at Fort Hamilton Spirits in Industry City. Like, how did that relationship
Best
come
whiskey
about?
in the business. It came about mostly, Alex is part of our community, and he is just a pillar, much like yourself, of kind of Windsor Terrace, Kensington. And I met Alex briefly at a tasting, and then I got to know him through you. And I would just go down and hang out and help him out, because I'm like, hey, I'm around, I can do it.
So you would just kind of like show up at the distillery.
Yeah. If he needed an extra hand, because honestly, it was about believing in product. And his whiskey is amazing. And I wanted to do.
Tom just wanted that free ass whiskey.
Hey, Alex has been more than generous with the whiskey, and I wasn't expecting it. I would have just done it just to help out, because he's a great person in the community. So, and then that led to doing some photographs down at the distillery, and some barreling and things like that. And again, because I was down there helping him bottle and all that stuff, I was able to witness the story and what I wanted to tell and what I saw. And you go into this space and it's industrial and it feels like a lab, but it also kind of beautiful. And then you have the woods mixed in there. So Alex trusted me to help tell that story. So that was really cool.
Well, it's a really good point, because a lot of people just focus, especially since things were shut down, on digital outreach almost exclusively. And I mean, there was a time where people felt like that was the only thing they could do. And I think people are still kind of stuck in that. I'll, testify for me personally, what has helped me grow over the last 18 months the most. I mean, digital helped a lot, but like I've gotten way more from in-person interaction.
Yeah.
Especially lately. And like you pointed out, it was definitely harder to do that, like with a kid in tow. So when school was, when school was back, like your kid's school would get shut down, just their school or their class. It would be like, fuck, man. Yeah. And they'd be stuck with you for like 2 weeks or whatever, or a month while they got everything sorted out. And it just made it very difficult to get, like, you need to be seen. Yeah. You've got to get out. You have to make those interactions. Yeah. It's just much easier, I think, to stand out that way and capture somebody's attention than it is on a Zoom call or in the comments of some LinkedIn post. Not that doesn't work, not shooting it down, but man, what has happened with me over the last like 6 to 8 months? Yeah. The better things have all come about from being in people's faces. Yeah.
But we talked about it even at the beginning of this thing, at the beginning of the pandemic and everything, just being present. Yeah. And despite not being there, not being able to shake people's hands or hug people to begin, people were still, they were still being fortified by your food.
Well, look at Friedman's pastrami and like what he pulled off. Yeah. And we couldn't shake hands and everybody was in masks and everything, but like your boy exploded.
Exactly. And it was just like, you were still so present, and that was a story. And you were offering that story of, hey, we're a New York business. We're here. So like I said, a lot of times it's not social media. It's that story that you offer by example that people can invest in. I mean, people would walk by on the avenue and see your daughters out front, like collecting money for the pop-up for the, feed the hungry. And it was a neighborhood story. It was a cool thing to see. So anytime people can invest and get lost in a story and even the good deeds of others or anything, it's good to transport people.
Yeah. All right, we're going to transport to our last break, and then we will transport back for our last segment. Hang tight. So here we are on a podcast, and you have a podcast.
I do.
And I think it's only appropriate that we talk about your podcast on the podcast.
Very cool. I'll talk about it. I'd be glad to.
It's a podcast on podcasting about a podcast.
Yeah. Yep. Hey, there's a market for that so long as it's a podcast.
Right.
You know, but
tell us about Toll Switch.
Toll Switch is something I created a while back, and it's gone through quite an evolution. But essentially what it's been refined to and what it is like I've always said, I'm a storyteller, and I wanted to create this almost storytelling studio where there weren't really limits to it. What I could do could start in speaker and easily translate to screen, stage, or page. We could do books, so we could do all this kind of stuff. And all that is based on the notion of connection. So really it's, the series is called Toll Switch, and it's essentially an audio play series that's genre jumping, that is set, currently our first collection is set in New York City in the 1950s, and they all center on a series of phone calls. So these phone calls are all essentially one-act plays that within all these plays, we kind of reveal the infrastructure of our fictional version of New York in the 50s, which is kind of supernatural, kind of weird, kind of a lot of different things. Yeah. But it's allowed me an opportunity to tell all the different stories I want to tell, be it comedy, be it drama, be it a little bit more abstract stage. So it's been fun.
And most of those, the visual creations you've done with that have been black and white?
They have been black and white.
What's up with my buddy Peter Babon, shout out that Babon.
Mm-hmm.
He does all the photography for Renzo Gracie Academy,
mm-hmm.
And a couple of the like high level jiu-jitsu guys. And like he's like just doing black and white really right now. Like what's from the photographer perspective, video creator perspective, like the value? I mean, I love it. I don't understand.
Yeah. Well, I mean, obviously for what we're doing, because all of those stories were set in period in 1950s. I mean, you had color, you had Technicolor, you had beautiful, lush color films, but these are more stripped down, simple. They're of that kind of film noir school, which was always contrast, darks, lights, and it also was something that I wanted to give a backbone of that really, far west side Broadway black box theater. So the black and white just kind of suited it. It's something that, like I said, we're open to all things, and we're growing this to be a visual brand, and everything is black and white. But if we ever had that notion of growing it to show film, which, we would hope one day, it's like, will you be allowed to shoot it in black and white is more like it. So, because everybody wants to consume in color, but for me, the medium was always black and white.
Nice. And you're doing, both video and audio. The audio is Spotify?
The audio is on Spotify, it's on Apple, it's on Amazon and Audible, and it's also available on our site, which is tollswitchstudios.com. And on that site, there's like our first 3 episodes that we did shoot video for. So there are these like live readings that you can see the video. So there's other content in there.
Nice.
So So
and are you doing distribution yourself for the podcast, or are you going through a third party to get it to all these different?
It's currently ourselves. Like right now, it's all about the content. It's just building up a tremendous collection of these plays, and to the point where, like I said, they just kind of suss out that infrastructure that we're building. And then when we feel we're ready, expand where it's available. But, we would love to work with a network down the line.
I was going to ask,
what
would be the ultimate goal? Like, where do you want this to end up?
Yeah, I mean, the ultimate goal is right now, it would either be for me, a network, or quite honestly, because I've said a few times to people, I'm like, I can't wrap my head around it as a podcast because to me, these are like plays and they're audio plays. So I would love to just start really getting into relationships with New York theater groups, because this way it also helps with my casting, because I like to pull from local talent. And the one thing that I have found creating these episodes is, my God, the amount of unbelievable, unutilized talent in terms of acting that is in this city is incredible.
It's like the real defining character of New York.
Right? It is. Like, it is.
No matter what, it's like music, dance, acting, food, like.
And then I'll cast an actor for one of these things, and then I'll see that this actor does all of those. Yeah. They play the cello, they're a chef. It's insane. So it's like, I really would like to just maybe develop ties with a theater group and maybe do something stage first before we graduate to the screen, if we can, if the opportunity is there. But right now, the stories are being created as much as I can write them, as much as I can produce them. And the audio thing and the podcast feed has just been a godsend.
Right. Well, I was going to say, because you haven't been able to work with the theater group for like the last year and a half.
No, but
I mean, they're getting back now. Some Broadway shows are back up.
Yeah, I think they're all up this week. Yeah, which is great.
It's crazy.
It is crazy, but yeah.
We're gonna have to wrap it up, but before we go, drop your deets. Where can people find you? Website, Instagram, the podcast, everything.
My website is justinopictures.com, Justino. My Instagram handle for all my photography, and I don't post too many pictures of my dog or anything like that, but most of like my regular photography is at Bullfella. And you can find Toll Switch at either tollswitchstudios.com, or we're also on Instagram and at Toll Switch.
And like I said, if you want to see some other examples of his work, Fort Hamilton Distillery, you can look them up on Instagram, Facebook, and any of my channels, whether it's my personal stuff. He's helped out tremendously with things for the show and other things that I've done. Della Restaurant, Juice Box Wine and Spirits, all the nicer looking stuff. I try to remember to tag him, but I'm fucking terrible at that.
You usually tag me.
And then, come and have a bullfella at Della.
Maybe I'll be here and have it with you.
Maybe we're going to have one right now.
I think so. That'd be
awesome.
Good.
Well, thank you so much, man.
Thank you, brother.
Super
this was awesome. So much fun.
So nice to be live in person, too.
It is.
And not on Zoom. All right. You all, boom. We'll see you next week. Have a great weekend. Peace out.